Hello and welcome to Mighty Mini Studios' very first video. In this video I'll show you how to make industrial style bases for Killteam's upcoming expansion, Soulshackle. The first step is to make a 1cm grid on some 1mm thick plasticard. Next I used a scribe to scribe in the lines to make the tile pattern. I used a bit of sandpaper to smooth the surface before snapping off enough to use for each base. I then used the bases to trace a circle onto the plasticard, which I then cut out using a pair of scissors. The edges were a little bit rough, so I used some more sandpaper to make them nice and smooth. I used super glue to stick the discs to the bases. I wasn't particularly happy with how flush the discs were on the bases, so I came back with a hobby knife and trimmed them up. Bit more sanding and perfectly smooth. I used some model I-beam to get that industrial look for one of the bases. After chopping it down to size, I then super glued the I-beam to the base. I used activator to instantly cure the super glue. A couple of trims here, nice and flush. Next I used an L-beam to tidy up one of the edges that was on the base. For whatever reason I decided to use quick setting plastic glue. After a bit of drilling, bending, cutting and gluing, I attached some more pipe to this base, as well as some guitar string that looks like conduit. I removed a tile from his base to make way for some very safe looking cables. Similar sort of thing with this base, however later on I'll use some painting techniques to make it a little more interesting. I quite like the look of exposed cabling, but with this base I took it just a little bit further. I folded together a bunch of copper wiring to make it look like bundles of cables. After snipping the ends and shoving it into the tube, I used a bit of super glue to lock it in place. I wanted these bases to have a grim, dark, grimy feel to them, so I started off by priming them with black, and then going over them with a messy coat of Vallejo's metal colour burnt iron. Continuing with the grim dark feel, I decided to go with a lot of rust. For the colours I used Doomball Brown, Rhinox Hide, Jacaro Orange, Evil Sun Scarlet. I used a stippling motion with quite a large brush to try and get the pattern I was looking for. I decided that Jacaro Orange wasn't quite giving me enough red, so I switched to Troll Slayer Orange, also by Citadel. I went back over the rust with a very watered down Troll Slayer Orange to try and give me a sort of fresh, highly oxidized iron. I used Pro Acryl Bronze to paint over all of the pipework. I felt the rust was a little too clean, so I used a bunch of contrast paints to make them even grimier. Garrick Sewer, Wildwood, Nasdreg Yellow, Griffhound Orange are the colours that I used to make this effect. Wet blending the paints on the model removes any harsh transitions between colours. went back in with the burnt iron on all of the metal parts. This gave it a rough, worn metal look. I used white aluminium to make broad, rough scuffs on the metalwork. The last part for the metalwork, I used Vallejo Model Air Silver to pick out very small scratches and chips on the metal. For the cables, I base coated them in Celestial Grey. For the yellow cables, I painted Imperial Fist Yellow, and for the blue, I used Talisar Blue contrast paints. Almost forgot to mention the Black Legion on these cabley bits. To make everything look nice and tidy, I decided to use Vallejo Model Black around the rims of the bases. Now for the oil effects. I used Black Templar mixed with Vallejo's water effects. The exact ratio between the two doesn't really matter, it just needs to look like oil. I put this mix in nooks and crannies and anywhere I thought oil might be. And there you have it, 5 very easy bases for you to use with your Soulshackle models. Thank you for sticking around and hopefully we'll see each other soon.